A project planning tool can ensure high-quality projects that provide clarity for students as well as promote their executive functioning skills. In order to create the most effective project, follow this outline to help you build a project for your students. First, take a moment to talk to a colleague, your coach, or brainstorm the project you are hoping to create. After doing so, write down the main purpose of the project here in just 1 to 2 sentences. Most of us know exactly how we want the project to look, so go ahead and write down the format here. For example, you may want students to create a PowerPoint and do a presentation, or a speech, or a research paper, or even an image with a write-up. Now that you have an idea in your mind in terms of the purpose and format of the project, backwards plan the project with the end result in mind. You can do this by selecting the standards for your specific content area or from your school's student learning outcomes to create measurable targets for this project. Once you have listed a standard, write how you'd like to evaluate students in an evaluation statement for each standard. Now that you know what you want your students to be able to show, write down a few numerical specifics here. Limit this section to just a few numerical limitations such as word count, slide count, page number, time minimum, and maximums for presentations, and amount of sources. Avoid listing too many numerical specifics. Probably the most important part of this tool is listing the detailed steps to complete this project. Notice here you will list the steps as if you are the student completing your project. These steps are the best case scenario if the project is planned out perfectly from start to end. Here are some tips to go by that will help you in completing this section. The phrase read project sheet and complete the project planning tool should always be the first step on any plan. Use specific actions as the verb for each step, such as write, research, read, create, and practice, as well as refrain from general language such as think, work on, and collaborate. Be generous in your time estimations. Students will generally take longer than you anticipate. As a general rule, add 15 minutes onto your estimation. One step should be able to be accomplished in 1 to 2 sittings per day or night. This should be age appropriate. Follow these general time estimation guidelines for 5th through 12th graders. If a step is taking longer than these time frames, it is necessary to separate the step into 2. When writing the results of this step, it is important that each result is an evaluative work product as much as possible. For example, slide layout created, outline created, images inputted, draft of paragraph 1 created, and so on. When it cannot be a work product, write knowledge of blank, which can be assessed orally if needed. The steps you write here truly become the key for assessing how students plan their projects. At the bottom, you will see the final stages of this project planning tool. Here you will count the number of steps you wrote above as the number of days. Then add between 2 to 4 additional days to that number. The total you arrive at will be the total time frame for this project. This provides you with an assignment date and due date. And last but not least, you will then write the name of the project. This tool has become your project plan. You are now ready to create the student-friendly version, the project sheet. You should be able to simply copy and paste your project plan into this format here, starting with the title, then the description, which comes from the concise purpose you wrote at the beginning of your plan, followed by the format. The evaluation should come straight from your plan as well. Up to you whether you'd like to include the standards or just the evaluation of the standard, followed by the numerical specifics that you wrote earlier. Last and most important, all project sheets need to include the student project planning tool. Here are a few tips for implementing the student project planning tool to practice executive skills such as planning, organization, and time estimation. Create just enough numbered boxes for the amount of steps you planned for on the student's version. This will help the student gauge how many steps they need to successfully complete this project. Leave at least 2 empty boxes that aren't numbered at the end in case students chart out additional steps. Even for older students, allow enough time in class for students to write out the steps. During and after students write out the steps for completion, it is extremely beneficial for students to edit their steps. Feedback on the planning process will support the students' understanding of planning and time management, as well as catch misunderstandings very early on in the development of the project. It may be appropriate to guide the class in writing out the steps together, especially if this is the first time. If this is the case, refrain from giving them a handout with your listed steps on there. Practice creating steps even if scaffolding and teacher guidance is necessary, as this practice is incredibly impactful when they are creating steps to complete projects eventually on their own. Pairing students up in heterogeneous groupings to write out the steps for a project will support students who struggle with executive functioning. The list of steps can be provided as a form of accommodating for a student with learning needs. Your student may have an accommodation similar to projects broken down into manageable pieces on their learning plans. Providing guided support or your steps for completion will support this student according to their IEP or 504 plan. Following this method for creating and implementing projects in your classroom will ensure high-quality projects that target specific executive functioning skills. Interested in seeing a sample of this project planning tool in action? Click to view the sample project planning tool I created for a college visitation project.